Today, we're going to talk about more fake Messis that have popped up, this time being reported in The Athletic, and is not a good look for Topps because it impacts products such as Dynasty, which was a very recent release from them and one that is, quite a high-end product. This goes to videos that we've done over the last 2 to 3 months and looks like it's a bigger issue than what we initially thought. Now, if you haven't seen my previous videos on these Messi fake autos from Topps, it's these two in particular over here from the last 3 to 4 months, specifically around a Topps Finest Champions League set that I think was 2022, 2023, that I'll get the full name in a second. But basically, there were some Messi cards that were pulled there, out of 10s, I think they were, that had some, questions around the authenticity of them and the genuine nature of them. These were then submitted to PSA by these customers, and some Reddit threads then subsequently popped up when people got a response from PSA saying these don't look genuine. Now, what was sort of interesting within the first video was that I talked about being a very disappointing experience for this individual. I think the guy that first posted the Reddit thread talked about, buying 2 boxes of this product to open with his son on Christmas Day, I think it was. They hit the Messi there. Obviously, minds were blown because that's sort of like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to sort of hit a card of that magnitude, and they were really excited about it, sent it to PSA, and PSA then started raising questions. About a month or so later, we got some updates. It was either through that poster again or somebody else that also had a card out of 10, the same card out of 10 from Messi that, was Topps sort of saying, hey, we're going to do a replacement for you and we'll go from there. Now, what was disappointing about that is that Topps didn't publicly state that this thing was fake and that they were doing replacements, but they told this customer privately, and that sort of done the rounds on social media. Then basically people caught on. Now, what is disappointing about that, I'll say that again, is that in this recent article from The Athletic talking about additional fake autos or questionable autos, is that Topps have still not come out and publicly acknowledged that this is an issue. Now, the reason why I'm talking about it again is to reiterate that this issue exists, but to highlight that the more cards that have come to light, and I think this is news to me. I don't recall where exactly I saw this article get posted. I think it was on Twitter. Maybe somebody tagged me, so I do apologize for forgetting that. But it's from June 2nd. This was obviously posted in June 3rd, Australian time, given that we are in the future. And what they talk about is the fact that there are more of these cards, and PSA continues to not want to certify these. Now, I believe this is the one in question that PSA have said is from Dynasty and is not going to be certified by them. And it talks through that in this article itself. Now, the reason why I'm very concerned about this is that it's also impacting a high-end set like Dynasty, where you would have thought, Topps as a manufacturer would have given more oversight to the autograph being signed, in fact, by Messi. What we talked about in these videos over here, when people sort of started asking questions about it, is that these companies don't often send their own representatives to sort of oversee these, signing sessions. What we talked about in the past with Messi was that there was accusations actually that his brother was signing his autographs for Panini, and there's a lot of thought that's gone into that, and there's a lot of these autos out there that people think are fake. I think the most pressing of those would be 2018 Eminence, the first year of Eminence from Panini, that has some very questionable autos in there from Messi. And it's one of those ones that's continued to raise eyebrows. But like I said, when these stories have come up, people have said, well, how do they miss the auto? Well, they don't send their own people. They basically get the player's agent, the player's friend, a family member, a contractor to sign a contract saying, yes, we're going to sign an affidavit. We're going to prove that we're going to see this guy sign these things. We get paid. And then guess what? A lot of the times they don't go ahead and do that because why would they care? They've got paid. There's no real control over the process. They can do what they want. The guy that's signing the athlete doesn't care. It's a really messy situation. It's a problem that these companies need to sort of fix. When I say companies, I mean manufacturers. But that's beside the point. I'm rambling. What the key thing in this article does go on to say, like I said a bit earlier, is not that it's just impacting Topps Dynasty, which is a very high-end set. The Athletic talk about the fact that since they first reported this issue in March, i.e. after I and others talked about it, 5 additional sets have questions around them when it comes to Messi's autos. That's a big deal, right? 5 sets, that's a big bloody deal. When you factor in, they're not just sticker autos that are impacted, like what we saw with these 2 sets over here. You've also got on-card autos that are questionable now as well. And that's a pretty, big problem to have. Now, I think they also talk about in this article that PSA have not provided a direct comment. PSA are not saying these things are fake. They're simply saying they want to investigate this stuff further. But, if PSA is not feeling comfortable to go ahead and get these things authenticated, or they don't want to put their name brand on one of these, that raises a heck of a lot of questions around the authenticity, right? And people talk about PSA having these issues and making mistakes, but if they as a business are not willing to do that, that should tell you, all you need to know. So this article essentially talks through this in detail. I think I just read somewhere what the original set was. It's this one over here that I mentioned earlier that I couldn't remember the name. Topps 2023 Dynasty UEFA Champions League. That's where these 2 cards are from. But a big problem, one of those ones that I think we're going to see a lot more of, and I'm shocked that Topps haven't come out and given a public statement on this, because this seems like a big problem, right? You've got, cards in multiple sets, cards that people are sort of hitting that are meant to be changing their lives in terms of the feeling that you get, but then also the ability to sell it and make a lot of money. But now in something that's your flagship product, that's incredibly questionable. And this is obviously not just limited to Topps, because he's got a heck of a lot of questionable autos over the years from Panini. But this is simply, not good enough. And the only thing I would really commend throughout this whole situation is sort of PSA's stance on the situation, because they've come out and sort of said, hey, we're going to do our due diligence. We're going to go above and beyond to try and make this right by customers. And the way they've sort of done that is communicating with Topps directly to try and get these cards remade. And some of that in this article is also mentioned that these cards are going to be remade by Topps. We've got other sets over here where are now impacted. The Topps Dynasty set, you've got the Champions League sets, you've got Topps Chrome, Sapphire, some MLS sets where he's in there for the Inter Miami cards and the like. But again, it's just not acceptable. And this is sort of an example of some of these issues where you've got two cards here with two very distinct autos. Now, I can't recall which ones are exactly the fake ones. I should know this because I've looked at them so many times now. I'm pretty sure it's the one with the figure 8. So this one over here, that looks a bit questionable. But either way, check out my other two videos because I go through that in detail. I just want to do a quick recap today on, where this concern comes from. Like, I just don't think this is good enough. So I'll put the link down to this article as well for you to read in your own time. But fundamentally, you've now got, instead of one set or one card in particular, and I should also clarify, it was only certain parallels in this set that were impacted allegedly. You've now got 5 sets plus a flagship product impacted, and Topps are still not coming out and saying anything. And these are not things that are cheap, right? These things are very expensive to buy. And this is one of those things that's completely unacceptable in 2025, right? You're fundamentally there to create product for consumers, right? You want to charge an arm and a leg. You need to give people the value that they're paying for. And you would think that when it comes to sets like this, especially high-end sets, the cards that are going to be most sought after would be the ones that you sort of give the most care to. So if you've got messy cards out there that PSA don't want to authenticate and are apparently highly questionable, what does that mean for the other autographs in your set, right? If you're not paying any attention to a set like that, to a product like that, to a card like that, to an athlete like that, what does that mean for everything else? Because I would assume that something like Dynasty would have the most stringency associated with it. They'd be very strict with how they monitor that. They'd have all those signing sessions recorded, but maybe they haven't done that. I would think that with a Messi, they would go above and beyond to make sure that everything was A-OK, considering the values of those cards. But it's not clearly happening here. And maybe there's just some little loopholes or some issues that have slipped through. But, I look at this and I see a big problem, and I think we need to see more pushback. So I'll tip my hat to PSA for trying to protect consumers, because they've not really done things like this in the past. They would have simply said, hey, this autograph is fake. I don't care. We're not going to grade it for you. Piss off. But no, they've gone and said, hey, Topps, you need to sort something out here because these things aren't good. So, it is what it is. I'm, not a fan of PSA. I'm not a hater of PSA. I'm pretty, indifferent on them and every company in this space. I just want them to be doing the best. And I think in this particular case, they're doing a good thing. So anyway, I'm rambling. Please share your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, let me know if you think I missed anything in that article, if you've come across any other fake autos that you think are worth talking about. But as always, these videos are here to sort of help educate, bring this stuff to be more mainstream, bring it front of mind, make it more prevalent, because people don't really pay attention to this kind of crap. And things like this are fundamentally some of the biggest concerns that we should have in the modern hobby, because this stuff is not good enough. So, please share it if you did like the video. I don't make any money for doing this channel. I just literally do it out of the goodness of my heart. I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. So I'm trying to help. Videos like this should help people stay away from this product in the meantime, in my opinion, until Topps come out and say, hey, we've made a mistake, or hey, these things are okay and this is why. So anyway, it is what it is. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.